You ever been there? You ever had a moment where you're sitting in silence, wondering if they'll ever come back? You put up walls, you locked your heart away, but still there's that lingering hope. And just when you've convinced yourself to move on, he returns. The phone rings, the text comes through, and there's that familiar name on the screen. And for a moment, your heart skips. You're asking yourself, why? Why after all this time? Well, I'm here to tell you, don't mistake this for a weakness in you. Don't let his return make you feel like you weren't enough, because let me tell you something, it's not about you, it's about them. It's about their fear, their doubt, their own inability to let go of what they couldn't fully understand when they had you. You are never someone's second choice. Don't settle for being their fallback. Too often people are made to feel like they are disposable, like when someone walks away, they are left with nothing but the pieces of a love that wasn't valued enough. It's a painful reality, but it's a truth many people face. Someone leaves your life, and you're left asking yourself, what did I do wrong? You question everything. You begin to wonder if you weren't the right choice. And when they return, you find yourself torn between your emotions and your dignity. But here's the truth that you need to hear. You are never someone's second choice. Never. You are not the person to be called upon when things get hard or when they feel alone. You are not the one they should run back to when they realize the grass wasn't greener. You are not their backup plan. When someone leaves, they may have their reasons. There may have been doubts, insecurities, or issues they couldn't work through. But in their absence, something happens. You grow. You evolve. You discover your worth. You realize that the love you give is valuable, not something to be taken lightly. And in this growth, you begin to see the truth. You were never meant to be someone's second choice. We live in a world where people often take the ones who love them most for granted. They walk away thinking that life will be easier without that connection, that love. They get caught up in distractions, in the thrill of something new or the comfort of their own space. But when the novelty wears off, when the distractions lose their shine, and when the silence becomes too loud, they remember you. They remember your kindness, your understanding, your patience, and the way you love them unconditionally. They may come back, but don't be fooled. This return doesn't mean that you were ever their first choice. It simply means they've come to terms with the reality that they lost something special. They may not have fully realized what they had until it was gone, but that doesn't mean they deserve a second chance at it. You are not their safety net. When they return, they might say the right things, apologize, and promise change. They may act like they've learned from their mistakes, that they've come to their senses. But you need to ask yourself, why did they leave in the first place? And more importantly, why are you considering letting them back in? There's a dangerous cycle that many people fall into, the cycle of believing that love is about being there when someone needs you. That love is about accepting them back when they come crawling. But true love, the kind of love that you deserve, is about consistency. It's about respect. It's about loyalty. And it's about being someone's first choice, not their second. When someone leaves, it's not your responsibility to sit by and wait for them to figure themselves out. You deserve someone who doesn't need to realize your value after they've lost you. You deserve someone who understands from the start that you are worthy of their full attention, their commitment, and their love. You can't build a future on someone who only shows up when it's convenient for them. You can't give your heart to someone who only seeks you out when they feel empty or unsure. You are not meant to be their fallback, their plan B. You are not a substitute for the things they are missing in their life. You are whole, you are strong, and you are deserving of someone who chooses you from the very beginning, not when it's easy for them, but when it's difficult for them too. If they've come back after leaving you once, think about what you've learned in their absence. Think about the strength you've found in yourself, the growth you've gone through. You've learned to stand on your own, to be your own support system, and to trust in your own worth. You've stopped looking for validation from others, and instead you've started giving that validation to yourself. You've realized that love should not feel like a compromise, it should feel like a partnership. It should feel like two people choosing each other every day, not just when things get hard or when the world feels too overwhelming. So when they return, ask yourself what they're truly offering. Are they offering something new, something real, or are they simply offering the same empty promises and the same cycle of disappointment? Don't let them walk back into your life just because they want comfort, just because they need someone to pick up the pieces when they fall apart. You are not their security blanket. You are not the one to be used and discarded at will. You are someone who deserves respect, commitment, and loyalty from the start, not just when things fall apart. It's time to stop accepting second place. It's time to stop believing that you are someone's when it's convenient person. You are worthy of a love that chooses you first, a love that doesn't leave, a love that doesn't wander. And when someone returns to you after leaving, you must have the strength to ask yourself if they are truly worthy of your time, your love, and your heart. You are not their second choice. You are their first if they truly see your worth. If they don't, then you are better off without them, because you are more than enough on your own. And when the right person comes along, they'll see it. They'll choose you first, and you won't have to wonder if you're just a fallback. When they leave, it's not about you, it's about their own fears and insecurities. You know, it's easy to think that when someone walks away from you, it's something you did, something you weren't, or something you failed to be. You replay every conversation, every interaction, questioning where you went wrong, what you could have said differently, what you could have done to make them stay. And in that painful silence, all the self-doubt creeps in, making you believe that you weren't enough, that you weren't deserving of their love. But here's a truth you must grasp when they leave. It's rarely about you. It's almost always about them. It's about their fears, their insecurities, and their own struggles. People don't walk away from the things they value, they walk away from the things they fear. They walk away from love because it requires vulnerability, commitment, and honesty. It asks them to be open in ways they're not ready for. Love requires them to face their own emotional baggage, to confront their past, and to trust someone else enough to let down the walls they've spent years building. But when they're not ready to face their own demons, when they're not ready to be that open, they run. They leave. They create distance because that's what feels safer than dealing with the fear and uncertainty love brings with it. It's easy to think that their departure means you weren't good enough, that you weren't worthy of their time and attention. But in reality, their leaving has nothing to do with your value and everything to do with their ability to handle what they see in you. Your strength, your love, your independence, these things can be overwhelming to someone who's not ready to meet you where you are. Someone who isn't ready to open their heart and be vulnerable with you. And instead of taking responsibility for their inability to commit, to trust, or to love, they point the finger elsewhere, telling themselves a story about why it wasn't meant to be. But don't buy into the lie that their leaving was a reflection of your inadequacy. It wasn't. It was about their own fear of being hurt, of getting too close, of losing control. They couldn't handle the emotional depth you brought to the relationship because deep down they didn't believe they were worthy of that love. They didn't believe they could measure up, and so they ran. They pulled away to protect themselves, to avoid the vulnerability that comes with truly loving someone else. And that's the thing you need to understand. Sometimes the person who leaves isn't doing it because you aren't enough. They're doing it because they're afraid of their own feelings. They're afraid of being vulnerable, of being seen for who they truly are. They're afraid of giving up control, of opening up to the possibility that they might lose themselves in someone else. And instead of confronting those fears, instead of working through their own issues, they choose the easier option. They leave. They shut themselves off from the connection because it feels safer to walk away than to face the raw reality of love and intimacy. It's important to remember that love doesn't always come easily for everyone. It's not always as simple as saying the right words or showing the right actions. Some people have been hurt so deeply in the past that they build walls around their hearts to protect themselves. They push people away because they fear being vulnerable again. They fear opening up and getting hurt. They fear being judged or rejected. They fear being too much for someone else to handle. And rather than risking that vulnerability, they choose distance. They choose avoidance. They choose to leave. But here's where you need to be careful. Just because they left doesn't mean it was your fault. It doesn't mean you were too much for them to handle or that you weren't worth their time. No, the truth is that sometimes people leave because they're simply not ready for the kind of love you're offering. They're not ready to face the emotional work it takes to maintain a healthy, thriving relationship. They're not ready to open up to the depth of love you bring into their life, and so they run. They push you away, not because you're too much, but because they're not enough yet to meet you where you are. So don't internalize their decision to leave as a reflection of your worth. Understand that their departure says more about their own struggles, their own limitations, and their own fears than it does about you. You are worthy of love that doesn't require you to shrink yourself, to make yourself smaller, or to hold back who you are. You are worthy of a love that sees you for everything you are: strong, beautiful, vulnerable, and whole, and still chooses you. The truth is, people who run from love are often the ones who need it the most. They need healing, they need growth. And they need time to learn that love isn't something to be feared, but that healing doesn't have to come at your expense. It doesn't mean you should wait for them to figure it out or sacrifice your own happiness while they work through their issues. You don't have to carry their emotional baggage. You don't have to wait around for someone to realize that they need you. Because the reality is, if someone truly loves you, if they truly want to be with you, they won't let their fears dictate their actions. They won't let their insecurities hold them back. They will fight for you. They will work through their struggles. And they will choose you no matter how scary it feels. And if they walk away before they can get there, it's not a reflection of your worth, but of their inability to face their own fears. They may come back, but don't be fooled. This return doesn't mean that you were ever their first choice. It simply means they've come to terms with the reality that they lost something special. When someone walks away from you, they leave behind more than just physical space. They leave behind the trust, the connection, and the love that you gave them. And at first, it can feel like the end of the world. It feels like something you didn't see coming, something you couldn't have prevented. It feels like you were blindsided, left to pick up the pieces of a relationship you thought was worth fighting for. But as time passes, something shifts. You start to rebuild. You start to realize that their departure was not a reflection of who you are, but a result of their own inability to appreciate what they had. They didn't see it then, but they see it now. And when they come back, it's not because you were their first choice. It's not because you were the one they loved more than anything. It's not because they suddenly realized you were the best thing that ever happened to them. No, when they come back, it's because they've come to terms with the reality of their loss. They've had time to reflect on what they gave up, and now they're hoping you'll open that door again. They're hoping you'll allow them back into your life like nothing ever happened. But let's be clear about one thing: their return is not a sign of your worth. It's not a reflection of how valuable you were in their eyes before. It's just a sign that they've come to regret their decision. When they left, they were caught up in their own world. They were lost in their own fears, doubts, and distractions. They weren't thinking about what they were walking away from, because in that moment, they didn't believe they could lose it. They thought they had time. They thought they could find someone else, that they could figure things out on their own. But time has a way of showing people what they truly lost. It has a way of forcing them to face the emptiness they created. And so they return not because you were the one they always wanted, but because they've realized they've lost something that truly mattered. They've realized that no one else made them feel the way you did, that no one else was able to love them the way you did. But don't mistake their return for a sign of your value. Just because they come back doesn't mean you should rush to let them in. They may regret leaving. They may wish they had handled things differently. But that doesn't change the fact that they made a choice to walk away in the first place. They didn't value you enough in that moment. They didn't see the depth of what you had to offer. They didn't understand that love requires consistency, respect, and commitment. They were caught up in their own insecurities, and they took you for granted. And now that they've realized what they lost, they want to reclaim it, but that doesn't mean they've changed. That doesn't mean they've learned to appreciate you the way they should have all along. The truth is, they may come back because they're lonely, because they're struggling, or because they need something familiar. They may come back because the idea of being without you finally hit them. They may even come back with apologies and promises, saying all the right things to get back into your life. But you have to remember this: actions speak louder than words. If they truly valued you the way they should have, they wouldn't have left in the first place. They wouldn't have made the decision to walk away, to leave you behind, to hurt you. And the fact that they are now seeking you out, hoping for a second chance, should be met with caution. They may say they've changed, that they've learned from their mistakes, but real change is consistent. It's not something that happens overnight because of a moment of regret. It's not something that can be proven with a few words or gestures. It's something that takes time, effort, and a genuine shift in mindset. They may be returning with good intentions, but you must ask yourself, are their actions aligning with their words? Are they truly showing that they've learned from the past? Or are they just hoping that you'll be the comfort they need in their moment of weakness? When they come back, don't rush to let them in. Take the time to assess whether they are truly ready for the kind of love you have to offer. Take the time to reflect on what you've learned since they left. Have you healed? Have you grown? Have you become someone stronger, someone who no longer needs to settle for anything less than true love, true respect, and true commitment? Don't allow the return to be an invitation to relive the past. You've moved forward, and now it's time to see if they've grown enough to move forward with you. It's important to understand that their return is not a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of their regret. It's a reflection of their understanding that they lost something special. But just because they regret it doesn't mean they are entitled to a second chance. You are not obligated to open that door again. You are not obligated to allow them back into your life just because they've come to realize they made a mistake. Your value was never in question. They saw it, and they chose to walk away. Now it's up to you to decide whether you want to let them back in. But remember, their return doesn't erase the hurt they caused, and it doesn't erase the lessons you've learned. Don't let their regret define your worth. You are worthy of someone who chooses you from the beginning, not someone who comes back after realizing they made a mistake. You deserve more than a return. You deserve someone who chooses you without hesitation. We often find ourselves holding on to the hope that when someone walks out of our lives, they will realize what they lost and come back. It's a natural inclination to believe that love will always bring people back, that their return somehow validates everything we felt, all the time and energy we invested. But here's the truth that too many of us overlook. You deserve more than just a return. You deserve someone who chooses you without hesitation, who sees your worth from the very beginning, not just after they've had time to regret their actions. You deserve someone who doesn't need a second chance to realize that you are the one. It's easy to think that the people who leave and then come back are the ones who truly understand what they've lost, but that's often not the case. When someone leaves, it's typically because they weren't ready to fully appreciate what you brought into their life. They took your love, your kindness, and your dedication for granted. They thought they had time, or they were too consumed by their own issues to see the value in you. And when they walk back through the door, they're not necessarily coming back because they've had an epiphany about your worth. They're coming back because the absence of your presence has forced them to see what they missed, what they failed to appreciate. But that realization doesn't always equate to growth, maturity, or the ability to offer you what you deserve moving forward. When they come back, the truth is that they are often seeking comfort, familiarity, or the safety net they left behind. They've been in the world, tested other possibilities, and perhaps faced the reality that nothing compares to what they had with you. But that doesn't mean they've changed. That doesn't mean they've transformed into the partner you need them to be. Just because someone comes back after leaving doesn't mean they've learned to cherish you or respect you in the way you deserve. You deserve someone who doesn't need to leave in the first place to understand your value. Too often we lower our standards when someone returns, thinking that their regret is enough to justify accepting them back into our lives. But regret alone is not enough to build a solid foundation for the future. They may apologize, they may say the things you want to hear, but words without actions are just empty promises. Real love isn't about returning after the dust has settled, after they've had time to miss what they took for granted. Real love is about showing up fully present from the start. It's about consistency, it's about respect, and it's about choosing each other without needing time apart to figure things out. You deserve someone who understands your worth from the moment they meet you, not someone who needs to walk away and lose you to understand that. When someone returns to your life after leaving, they're often coming back with a mixture of their own emotions. They may feel guilty, they may feel lonely, or they may feel like they've made a mistake. But it's important to remember that you don't need to be their emotional savior. You don't need to be the one who picks up the pieces of their broken heart. You have your own heart to protect, and you deserve someone who is emotionally mature enough to give you their full commitment without needing to be reminded of what they could lose. The truth is, people often return to the things they took for granted when they realize how hard it is to find something like it again. But that realization doesn't mean they've grown. It doesn't mean they've understood the depth of the love they left behind. They're coming back because they want the comfort, the familiarity, or even the validation of knowing they were loved. But they haven't truly changed. They haven't taken the time to reflect on their own behavior and learn from it. If they had, they wouldn't have needed to leave in the first place. They would have chosen you from the start, and they would have fought to keep you. You deserve someone who chooses you without hesitation. You deserve someone who doesn't need time away to see your value. You deserve someone who doesn't wait until they've lost you to understand the depth of the connection you share. You are not an afterthought. You are not a consolation prize. You are worthy of someone who sees you for who you are, who recognizes the strength and beauty you bring to their life, and who makes the choice to stay, to commit, and to honor you from the very beginning. It's time to stop settling for a love that only shows up when things get difficult. It's time to stop accepting the bare minimum, the half-hearted gestures, and the empty promises. You are worthy of someone who chooses you, not just when it's convenient, but every day, in every circumstance, without needing to take a step back. You deserve the kind of love that doesn't require you to question your worth, to wonder if you're enough, or to wait for someone to come to their senses. You deserve someone who knows exactly what they have and who holds on to it with both hands because they know it's rare and precious. When they come back, don't fall for the illusion that their return means they're the one. The fact that they left means they didn't fully understand your value in the first place. You deserve someone who chooses you because they know from the very beginning that you are enough, that you are worthy, and that you deserve to be loved the right way. Don't settle for someone who only wants you when it's convenient, when the other options fall through, when they've realized they made a mistake. You are worth more than that. You deserve a love that doesn't need to be earned back. You deserve a love that chooses you every day. When someone leaves and they come back, they often bring with them baggage that wasn't there before. It's easy to forget that the person who returns is not the same person who walked away. Time has a way of changing people, and not always in a positive direction. They may return with more regrets, more unresolved issues, or more emotional scars than before. And while they might have realized they made a mistake, it doesn't mean that they've grown or learned how to treat you the way you deserve. When someone walks out of your life, it's a decision they made. And yes, they may regret it later, but regret doesn't automatically mean growth. Regret is about realizing what they lost, but growth is about learning from the past, changing behaviors, and becoming a better version of oneself. Regret without growth is just nostalgia. It's remembering how good things once were without understanding why they went wrong or how to make things better. People who leave and come back often want the comfort of what they had, but they're not always willing to do the work to make things right. That's where you come in. When someone returns, it's up to you to evaluate if they have truly changed, if they have truly learned, or if they're just seeking a temporary solution to their loneliness or their insecurity. You have to ask yourself what has really changed about them. Are they still the person who left, who wasn't able to fully appreciate you? Or are they someone who has reflected on their mistakes, acknowledged their flaws, and worked on themselves to ensure they don't repeat the same actions that caused pain the first time? The problem is, many people don't change after they leave. They might want to come back because they realize they made a mistake or because they missed the comfort you provided. But that doesn't mean they've learned anything from the experience. They could still carry the same patterns of behavior, the same emotional baggage, the same insecurities. And if that's the case, the same issues that caused them to leave in the first place will only resurface. You have to be honest with yourself and ask, am I willing to risk the same heartbreak, the same disappointments, just because they've returned? When they come back, they may say all the right things, apologies, promises to change, regrets. But words are easy. What matters is their actions. Are they showing you through their actions that they're truly different? Are they showing you that they've worked on themselves, on their fears, and on their inability to commit or be vulnerable? Or are they just trying to slide back into your life because they feel the loss and want a second chance without having done the inner work to become the person you need them to be? People who leave and return often do so because they've been faced with the reality of life without you. They might have thought they could find something better. Or they might have been dealing with their own unresolved emotional issues. But when they realize that life without you is not as fulfilling, that they're still carrying around the same baggage, that the person they left behind was actually someone they truly cared about, they decide to return. But returning doesn't fix everything. Just because they come back doesn't mean the issues that led them to leave have been resolved. In fact, those issues may have only grown more complicated with time. They might be coming back because they need validation, or because they need you to fill the void that their decisions have left in their life. But you don't need to be anyone's emotional safety net. You don't need to be someone's second choice when they've realized they made a mistake. You deserve more than someone who only values you when it's convenient, when the other options fall through. You deserve someone who sees your worth from the start, who values you in every moment, and who never needs to walk away to understand how important you are. When they come back, it's tempting to accept them with open arms, to give them a second chance because you still have feelings for them, because you remember the good times, because you miss the connection you once shared. But you have to ask yourself, what has changed? Are they willing to do the hard work of addressing their shortcomings? Are they willing to face the issues that led them to leave and truly work on themselves, or are they just hoping you'll pick up where things left off without acknowledging the damage done? When you let someone back into your life after they've left, you have to be prepared for the fact that things may never be the same. The trust, the connection, the security you once had could be compromised. And while there's always the possibility that people can grow and change, you have to be realistic. If they haven't done the emotional work necessary to show you that they are a different person, that they are truly ready to be the partner you need, then the return might not be worth the risk. Don't settle for someone who only comes back because they realize what they've lost. Don't be the safety net, the backup plan, or the fallback option. You deserve someone who chooses you consistently, who understands your worth and makes the decision to stay, to fight for you, without needing time apart to recognize what they have. You deserve someone who is there, not just when it's easy, but when things get tough, when they're unsure, when they're scared. Someone who stays because they understand that love isn't something you walk away from when it gets hard. It's something you fight for, something you work on, something you cherish. So when they come back, ask yourself what you really want. Are you willing to take the risk that things may go back to how they were, that the same issues might arise again? Or do you want someone who chooses you from the start, who understands the value you bring to their life without having to leave and return to realize it? Because you are worth the kind of love that doesn't require time apart to appreciate. You are worth someone who chooses you wholeheartedly from the very beginning. When they leave and return, it's not just about them coming back, it's about you understanding that you've changed too. The person you were when they left is not the same person you are now. And that's powerful. Because in the time they were away, you had the chance to grow, to learn, and to become stronger. They may have walked out of your life thinking they could find something better. Or maybe they just weren't ready to commit to you fully. But while they were out there living their life, you were out there living yours, finding new strengths, developing resilience, and realizing that you are enough, even without them. When they return, they might think they can pick up where things left off, as if nothing has changed. They might believe that the love you shared is just waiting for them to come back and fill the space they left behind. But the truth is, you are not the same person you were when they left. You've learned new lessons, you've gained new perspectives, and you've healed in ways they can't even begin to understand. The person who once felt incomplete without them is no longer there. The person who once believed their love was the solution to everything has now realized that the most important love they need is the love they give to themselves. They might come back, but they don't get to decide how things unfold. They don't get to expect that everything will be just the way it was, because you've changed. You've realized that love isn't just about someone else loving you. It's about you loving yourself, respecting yourself, and knowing that you are worthy of being loved in the way that you deserve. And if they're coming back to a version of you that no longer accepts less than their worth. The reality is that when someone leaves, they often think they're leaving behind an incomplete version of you. They believe they are walking away from a person who needs them to feel whole, someone who can't live without them. But in their absence, you learn to live on your own terms. You discover that your happiness is not dependent on anyone else. You found strength in your solitude, power in your independence, and peace in your own presence. They didn't leave behind a version of you that was weak or needy. They left behind a version of you that was ready to stand on their own. A version of you that no longer needs anyone to define their worth. So when they come back, they'll be faced with a choice. Either they accept the person you become, or they walk away again. They won't be able to pick up where they left off because they are not dealing with the same person. They're dealing with someone who knows their worth, someone who has learned how to set boundaries, and someone who understands that they are enough without needing validation from someone else. If they come back expecting the same dynamic as before, they'll quickly realize that the person they left behind is no longer there. And that's not a bad thing. It's a sign of your growth, your strength, and your ability to move forward, regardless of what they choose to do. They may come back because they realize they made a mistake or because they missed the connection you once had. But the fact that they left in the first place should make you question if their return is truly in your best interest. Do they see the person you've become? Or are they only interested in the version of you that catered to their needs, that put them first? They might not have learned the lessons that you've learned in your time apart. They might still think of you as someone they can return to when things get tough, someone who will always be there no matter how much they took you for granted before. But if they haven't changed, if they haven't done the necessary work on themselves, their return could mean you're walking down the same painful road all over again. You've come to a point where you no longer need someone to complete you. You're no longer seeking someone else to validate your worth. Your confidence doesn't depend on their love, and your happiness doesn't rely on them being there. You are enough, and you've learned to embrace that truth. So when they return, it's important to remember that you don't have to let them in just because they're back. You've built a life without them. You've discovered what it means to be whole on your own. And that is something that cannot be easily taken away by someone who left in the first place. If they truly see the person you become, they'll respect your growth and your boundaries. They won't come back expecting you to drop everything for them, to rearrange your life for their convenience. They'll understand that you have become stronger, and they'll have to earn a place back in your life just like anyone else would. If they're truly ready to offer you something of value, something that aligns with the person you've become, then there's potential. But if they're only coming back because they want the comfort they once had without recognizing the strength you've gained, then they're not returning for the right reasons. The most important thing to remember is that their return doesn't define you. It doesn't validate your worth. And it doesn't mean you should change who you are to accommodate them. You are not the same person you were when they left. You have evolved. And that evolution is something to be proud of. So when they come back, be sure to assess whether their intentions align with the person you are now, not the person you once were. When someone returns to your life after they've left, it's often because they see that you've moved on. They see that your life is no longer revolving around them, and that you've built something strong for yourself, something that doesn't rely on them being there. This is a realization that hits them hard because in their absence, they've watched you thrive. And while they might want to come back and pick up where things left off, they have to understand that things can never go back to the way they were. You've moved on, and that movement is not just physical, it's emotional and mental too. The truth is, people only start to value what they had when they realize it's gone. And in their absence, they might have started to see you in a different light. Maybe they've seen your growth from a distance, or maybe they've heard things from mutual friends or acquaintances. Maybe they've seen how strong you've become, how independent you've become, and it makes them regret their decision to leave. But the fact that they see your growth doesn't automatically mean they understand or appreciate it. They may still think that they can come back into your life and everything will return to how it was before they left. But they're forgetting something important. The version of you they knew is gone. The person who depended on them for happiness, the person who was waiting around, is no longer there. You have grown beyond what they saw in you before. You've learned your worth, you've built your confidence, and you've found peace in your own company. When they come back, they might see a version of you that's more confident, more self-assured, and stronger than before. But their return doesn't erase the history you share. The pain, the moments of doubt, the hurt, they still exist, and they are still part of your story. They can't simply return and expect you to forget what happened. You can't just pick up from where things left off, because the damage they caused, the hurt they brought into your life, is not something that can be undone. Their return might be a sign that they regret their decision, but regret is not the same as growth. It's a feeling of remorse, but it doesn't guarantee that they've learned from their mistakes, or that they're any more capable of offering you what you need. They might want to come back because they see how strong you've become, but that strength isn't something you built for them. It's something you built for yourself. And it's important to understand that this strength, this emotional maturity, doesn't mean you have to lower your standards or accept them back just because they want to return. It means you are now in a position where you can evaluate their return without desperation or fear. You're not holding on to the past, you're not looking for validation, and you're not waiting for them to come back and complete you. You've already completed yourself, and that's powerful. When someone returns, they might try to convince you that they've changed, that they've grown, that they're ready for something more meaningful this time around. But words are easy. The real question is, how have they changed? What proof do they have that they are not the same person who walked away? Are they offering you the respect, the love, and the commitment that you deserve now? Or are they simply hoping you'll let them back in because they realize they made a mistake? Words without action are nothing more than empty promises. You have to ask yourself, do you want someone who only realizes your worth when they see you thriving without them? Do you want someone who comes back when they've seen you move on, when they've seen you living a life without them? Or do you want someone who chooses you without hesitation, someone who is there when things are good and when things are bad, someone who values you from the very start? Because someone who truly values you doesn't need to see you move on to recognize your worth. They see it from the moment they meet you. They don't take you for granted, and they don't leave and expect you to wait for them to come back. It's also crucial to remember that just because they come back doesn't mean they're switched for you. They may be returning out of a sense of regret, loneliness, or even a fear of missing out, but none of that is a reason to let them back in if they haven't shown true growth. They might have seen your strength, your independence, and your success from the outside, but they still haven't shown you that they are capable of offering you the emotional depth and consistency you need. When they come back, it's an opportunity for you to see the situation clearly, not through the lens of nostalgia or hope. It's an opportunity for you to assess whether they're offering you something real, something sustainable, or if they're simply coming back because they've seen you live a life without them. You've already proven that you can thrive without them. Now the question is, can they offer you something that adds to the life you built for yourself? Or are they just looking for a place to return because they see you've moved on without them? Their return doesn't mean you have to accept them. It doesn't mean that you have to throw away everything you've learned or the growth you've experienced. You've learned that your happiness and your peace are not dependent on anyone else, and you've built your life around that truth. So when they come back, remember that you've already found your strength, your happiness, and your worth. And if they can't add to that in a meaningful way, then their return is not something you have to accept. You are in control now. You have the power to decide who gets to be a part of your life and who doesn't. Don't let someone return just because they see you living your best life. Let them return if they are offering you something that matches the strength and growth you've found in yourself. Don't settle for someone who only values you when they see you thriving without them. You deserve someone who chooses you from the beginning, someone who values you without needing to see you move on. Because the right person will see you, all of you, from the start, and they won't ever take you for granted.